Welcome everyone to this session today on integrating your Dynamics stack with third-party apps. We're going to get started here in just a few seconds. I can see a couple people still rolling in, so let's just hang tight and we'll get started here momentarily. All right, before we jump in, just a quick overview of what we're going to be going over today. So, as I'm sure a lot of you are aware, eOne has been in the Dynamics space for, over 24 years now. So we're very well ingrained in the space, understand the apps, we understand the partner networks, your needs, and how we can meet those requirements. But I think what I want to talk about today is a little bit more of how we can support you outside of that stack. So Microsoft provides a lot of functionality for customers and partners to have native integrations between existing apps. So between the Dynamics CRM and Business Central, some SharePoint, a little bit of Power Automate to connect things up. They've made it very easy and cost-effective for a lot of customers to get started with just connecting Dynamics and Microsoft 365 apps together. But what about when the customer goes and acquires a different app? They want to use Jira for ticket tracking, or maybe they want to use Zendesk. They want to bring on Shopify or Magento. They have a homegrown web store that they like to use, or maybe they want to add Claude to their infrastructure. There's lots of different systems and options out there for customers. So what we want to talk about today is how we can provide a solution for not just connecting to those apps, but adding integration and an actual data strategy around making those apps an essential part of a customer's business. So throughout today's webinar, I'm going to give a quick introduction for those of you that aren't familiar with eOne Solutions or myself. Then we're going to go over the challenges that we see connecting the Dynamics stack with third-party tools. And then an overview of what the eOne iPaaS Plus supports for the Dynamics stack. Finally, we'll do some demo live jumping around just to give you some ideas. I'm going to jump around quite a bit, but the idea is that you're going to have a good understanding of the types of tools that we're giving you in your tool belt, and then I'll try and tie that back to real world scenarios that we've seen the eOne iPaaS Plus being used to provide to our customers. And then finally, we'll talk about QuickStart templates and accelerating ROI. A major theme that you're going to catch on to here is about how using the eOne iPaaS Plus for a strategy is going to help you as customers or partners implement integrations faster, support ongoing integrations, and provide quicker ROI, better returns, and move on to the next integration quicker. So my name is Ethan Sorensen. I'll be your guide today. I'm the Director of Product and Solutions in EMEA, based out of our Copenhagen, Denmark office. So for me, it's about 3 p.m. today. Not much else to say. I've been here through support, services, implementation, architecture of integrations across geographies, across industries. So I have a lot of knowledge about what use cases are out there and how the eOne iPaaS Plus has been implemented in various environments. So eOne has 300 partners globally, 20,000 customers. We have offices located around the world. We have data centers globally, meeting the unique requirements of all of our different customers. But really, we're passionate about providing low-code solutions for end users. And we've been doing this since the beginning. And the focus since the beginning has been on Dynamics. We've branched out to add support for non-Dynamics apps, but really what we're centered around in our entire sales engine, development engine, everything is about how do we support Dynamics partners and Dynamics customers the most. So jumping into it, what are the challenges of integrating with non-Microsoft apps? So some of this may sound familiar, some of it may be new, but the big one is going to be siloed systems and data. So what we typically see is if a customer is going to onboard a new app, so they want to go and bring on a new help desk system, a new procurement system, whatever it is, they're typically going to do this in a couple of phases. First, they're going to do the discovery, figure out what it is that they want. They'll typically check with you or check with Microsoft to see if there's a solution that's provided within the Dynamics stack that meets their needs and their requirements. If there's not, they'll go out to the market and start to look for other options. So they find a different solution, they'll implement that solution, and either they'll start planning the integration during the implementation phase, or they'll want to just get live with the system, understand how their business is going to be using it, and then add integration as a phase 2. But when they do this, you're quickly going to find differences in the data structure. So an example would be, internally, we used to use Dynamics CRM for our help desk and ticketing system back on CRM version 8, for those of you familiar. And then we made a transition to using Zendesk about 3 years ago. And when we'd made that change, initially we just cut over and said, support team, you're going to start in Zendesk next week and just start providing support as needed. But after that, we implemented a phase 2 of how do we integrate our Dynamics platforms. So Dynamics GP was our ERP, and the sales team and operations and website was still all tied to Dynamics CRM. So how do we tie all of that into Zendesk? Now, Zendesk is going to store that data differently than what Dynamics would. So what is a contact is now a user, what's an opportunity, or what is an account is now called a organization. There is no concept of custom tables, or at least there wasn't 3 years ago. Custom tables, opportunities, invoices, own products, all of the different things that you might need. So it becomes very fragmented because we can't actually just replicate everything that's in one system into the other. It's not a direct one-for-one match. And this is a pretty common scenario that we see when trying to connect core business applications with the other third-party tools that are selected. Typically in that phase 1 to phase 2, we'll see a lot of manual processes. So we'll see maybe users are having to manually go and check in another system to see, does this customer have support? There may be a manual process of saying every time that a ticket is closed, we have to go and enter in a manual timesheet. There may be manual processes even between Dynamics apps, depending on if the standard integration meets those needs. So manual processes are huge, even to this day. I still talk every week with customers that are using manual processes in one way or another. Sometimes it's copying and pasting data between applications, but sometimes it's even taking and manually keying in data from physical paper or from PDF documents and trying to understand what it is they're working with. So manual processes are still very much a pain point at most companies, not even just for these third-party integrations, but for all apps that they have and data silos. So I mentioned the disconnected data models. So it's having your entities have different names and certain objects might not fit between applications nicely. Costs and support. So what does it look like if you start to bring all of those systems together? Are you paying each individual app extra so that it will integrate with another one? How are you managing the spend on that? How do you manage integrating many-to-many integrations? So it's not just your help desk with CRM or your help desk with ERP. It might be all three of them, and then you're throwing in Stripe to handle the payment process, and it becomes very complicated to have a lot of point-to-point integrations. And then what about those on-premise systems or legacy systems that the customer may be using? So we're not just talking about cloud apps. Pretty much every application now has an API that you can connect to and build out powerful integrations on, but there's still on-premise systems that don't have that. There's still vendors that might be sending CSV files or working with FTP or EDI that don't have just quick responsive REST APIs to work with. So how do you also bring them into the fold and help break down data silos? So in the Microsoft space and beyond, there's a lot of different tools that you can use as part of your data toolbox. So you have a lot of different things that you can use. So you're looking at out of the box apps that are available on AppSource. You might be looking at a little bit of Power Automate, some custom code, a little bit of logic apps. Then on top of that, you're building your data pipelines, you're building Power BI reports, maybe you've brought on Snowflake or an external party to do that. So there's a lot of different tools and a lot of noise around data strategy and data integration. So what we're trying to do at eOne is provide a simple way of looking at this, not looking at all of the different tools that you could use, but more so, what does that integration strategy look like? And how by approaching the customer's different data endpoints and requirements can build something that's more robust than just solving today's issue while providing value for the customer long term. So here at eOne, what makes our iPaaS different, and the reason that we call it iPaaS Plus versus just an iPaaS, is that virtual integration and virtual data access portion of it. So this is our PopDoc portion, and what it does is it allows teams to stay agile and informed. So you want to be able to respond to changes quickly. So what we're going to do is allow you to reduce the investment in integration. So rather than building out, I need to push every single record between every application, such as integrating all of your tickets from the help desk system into the CRM system, and then allowing a native connector to pick that up and bring it into Business Central or F&O, we're going to say, what if we could just virtually share that data, provide a window into all the different systems that are required. So then this hybrid approach is going to allow for real-time access without users switching screens and without users needing to learn how to log into and use a completely different app. So if we look at the two types of data, and I like to use the move the data, share the data concept. So with move the data, you're doing your traditional integration. So this is data that's copied between systems. This can be more complicated, but there are scenarios where it's absolutely necessary. So this is going to be any data that's required for action to happen on that data after it's put into the system. Whereas the share the data is going to be data that's viewed live from Dynamics or in Dynamics while maintaining that single source of truth by not actually copying it and potentially duplicating data across systems. So an example to help differentiate the two data types, you have something like a customer or a relationship. So it might be a vendor, it might be a customer prospect or a partner of yours. That needs to exist in all of the systems so that we can transact against it. So your help desk system needs to know who to bill this particular support ticket to. The CRM team needs to know who this sale is going to be for. And then the finance system needs to know where are we shipping it and where do we allocate that commission. So there's going to be a lot of different systems that are going to be transacting all against that same customer. But beyond that, when you think about the actual transactional data that's happening day to day, some of that data only really makes sense in the context of its silo. So if we talk about the help desk system, all of the email correspondence that is happening between the support team and that external customer that's having a request, has a question, all of that data doesn't really need to be in every other system because that interaction is happening exclusively in the help desk system. Whereas in the CRM system, you're going to have interactions like workflows. So how is this quote progressing, all of the different versions it had, interactions, maybe tying it back to marketing campaigns, things that make sense in the CRM world. But in an ERP, do you need to know how many versions of this quote were there? Which marketing campaign did it come from? You really just need to know what was the actual sale, what financial transaction, what does the warehouse need to ship, that level of detail is required. But then as it gets into the finance system, we don't need to track how's this hitting the GL, where's this at in the shipping process. All of that doesn't need to be tied back into the CRM system. Instead, we're just going to allow users to look through those silos without breaking them down. So the silos do exist for a reason because these systems are best of breed. But what we're going to say is for that core, we'll say cement layer that's at the bottom that's supporting the entire silo, we're still going to integrate that. Your contacts, your accounts, anything that's essential for those systems to operate. But then anything that's being stored in those silos, we want to provide windows so that users can easily and securely see what they need to know to accomplish a task. So to help streamline them and accelerate what they're doing. All right, so what we're gonna do is enter the demo section. In the demo, I'll do a quick overview of Smart Connect and kind of talk to the ease of use. And then I want to spend quite a bit of time on the PopDoc aspect because there's a lot of integration tools out there, a lot of things like Power Automate or Logic apps that you can use. But what I really want to focus on today is how we can accelerate integration. So you could accelerate integration by standardizing on the Smart Connect platform, of course, but you can also accelerate existing integrations by using PopDoc. So if you already have a native integration between Business Central and CRM, maybe PopDoc can just enhance that with a little additional visibility. Or we could say you have Power Automate that is working to connect with this third-party vendor, or it is working to connect with this system, but now they want something that's a lot more complex. They want a lot more insights into what's happening in real time in Business Central. That's where we start to bring in PopDoc to really just enhance what is already a very powerful integration. So don't think of this as you need the entire platform. The platform is modular and you can select the portions that are required for your use case. So what I'm going to do here inside of Smart Connect is we're going to build out a scenario with Salesforce. So Salesforce is still a predominant CRM player. And what we find is that a lot of Business Central customers, particularly the ones that are newer to the Dynamics stack, they're interested in Business Central, but they have existing architecture outside of it. So for example, Salesforce. So I want to show how our native connector with Salesforce with our standard Business Central connector or F&O connector would work the same way. We can quickly onboard a customer that's using Salesforce without a lot of extra effort and in a standardized way. So within the platform, what we can do is set up a data source. You can select the type that makes sense for your scenario. So it could be a bulk source or a change trigger, maybe real time, deciding when that integration needs to run. I like real time because it's something that demos really well and it meets real world scenarios because it's going to happen when and where customers need it. So in this example, I'm going to say when a Salesforce customer is created or updated, I want to sync that to Salesforce. So then the sales team is able to see when I onboard a new customer based on the business process that we've identified. So here I'm going to grab all of the fields off of the customer. If I wanted to, I could link additional details to this. If I want to pull related detail like what are their shipping address, what is the contact, but we're going to keep this scenario quite simple and say, let's just grab customers, integrate them into Salesforce. So here on the integration process, just going to give it a friendly name, Salesforce customers. Selecting my previously defined data source. And then what is my key field? There's typically customer number, document number, something like that. So the integration knows what each unique record is. Then I'm going to send this to Salesforce. Now we can say create, which is going to do a creator update on that Salesforce account. So everything on the left here, these are all of my Business Central fields, my source fields. And then now I can see all of the Salesforce fields. Standard or custom fields are available here. So I can quickly map in any field that I want. So I can quickly map in customer name, customer number, phone number, any other fields that I think are pertinent. I'm going to turn on some error logging just in case something goes wrong, and then organize this into an integration group. Then I can register it. What registering is going to do is create that webhook inside Business Central. So we have this concept for any real-time data source, basically saying this integration is now set up the way I want it to be, and now I'm going to register it. So now in Business Central, I'm just going to create a new customer. No details, just a customer name and a customer number. As soon as that happens inside of Salesforce, we'll see it synced over from the Business Central. Not a lot of detail, but it has created that new account. Now that I've done my proof of concept, I can go back, add in more complexity. So for example, I can map in the phone number. If I just refresh, you can see my phone number has now synced over. So what this provides for partners is we're going to be able to work with systems that you may not be familiar with. So in Salesforce, mapping into a Salesforce object using a page that might be executing Apex code and things that you don't need to worry about because we take care of all that complexity and provide a standardized mapping window. So this will reduce the complexity for you when implementing integrations because it's been standardized, it's been understood, and then you can focus on how do I provide the functionality that the customer is looking for and not focused on the technicalities and the design of something you're not familiar with. So our list of native connectors is always growing, as well as our added functionality to work with other systems. So if you aren't familiar, on the eOne marketplace, under Solutions Marketplace, you're able to QuickStart with any of our pre-built templates. So I just showed the Salesforce example, which is one of our standard templates, but we also have templates between D365 Sales and Business Central, working with e-commerce sites, Excel, ShipStation, Zendesk, many other systems. And this is something that we're taking very seriously. We're going to continue to build out our integrations that we have here as templates based on feedback from our customers and partners. So if you do have any suggestions of additional connectors that you would like to see or additional templates, let us know. Another common question we get is, what can I connect to? So we do have our generic REST connector, which is going to allow you to connect to just about any REST-based API. But a lot of times you don't need to start at square one. We actually have templates or pre-built connectors available for a lot of different systems. So some of the connectors like Salesforce and Dynamics and Excel and SQL, those are standard connectors that are available for everyone without any additional work. But if we have a custom connector that we've built ourselves, so let's say you needed to connect with WooCommerce, in our documentation, we'll walk you through how to configure the connector and give you a link to where you can download the connector file so that you can upload it into your own Smart Connect instance. So if you haven't worked with one of these systems before, there's a good chance it's on this list. If it's not on this list, then we do have more that eOne has that haven't been like cleaned up as well. So once we put it out here, we've gone through and added every possible endpoint that will work within Smart Connect to help you accelerate your onboarding and require you to do less extra configuration. So just a heads up that we do have all of these in here. And that again is a list that is growing and has been growing throughout the year. Okay. So a little bit of a segue going into the virtual integration, so the sharing of the data. So once you've done that initial linking between two systems, we can quickly add additional functionality. So an example that I really like is Giordano's. So in here, I am a member of the sales team looking at Dynamics. From here, I can go and look at data from any of the other systems that we've added PopDoc widgets for. So if I go to the ERP invoices tab, why is this? Let me refresh quick. So here on the ERP invoices tab, it's pulling in real time any invoices that I have in Business Central, F&O, GP, wherever it is. So I can see those in here for just this account that I'm looking at. Now this data isn't in the Dataverse, this data isn't in CRM, it's just giving me a real-time view. The nice thing about this is I can quickly add in additional columns. I can easily make this multi-company. I can supplement this with data from Stripe, from any of our other connectors. So it's a lot more powerful than just a single native link between the two systems because it's very flexible and doesn't require custom code. Another powerful thing is I could say for this particular invoice, I want to pull the PDF. So I could say, go print this invoice inside the ERP and present it to the user outside. So the user didn't have to go in and retrieve it. It may have never been printed before, but it's being downloaded through PopDoc when and where the user needs it. So this is a really powerful tool to allow users to be more self-sufficient. So not asking finance for insights, asking finance for a printed report or for a tracking number, anything like that. Instead, all of this data is available when and where they need it in the system that they're already using. So if I go over one more tab, I have Zendesk tickets. So I'm going to use Zendesk as an example because technically this session could be about any app that's out, external. So just to keep things simple, I'm using Zendesk as my guinea pig today. But here I can again virtually look at all open Zendesk support tickets. So these again aren't in the Dataverse, they're now in a non-dynamic system. So I'm able to see insights about those. I could say I want to see every comment on this particular ticket. It loads in the comments. I can even drag this out if I wanted to have a little bit more visibility into what comments have been made. This one has over 100 comments, so it didn't bring in all of them, but I could increase the max records if needed. So this is a really good way to allow salespeople to be informed, salespeople to understand what is going on in that system. One of the things that we added a couple months ago into our PopDoc functionality is this summarize feature. So basically, in any list that you're looking at in PopDoc, we can add prompts to your own AI tool. So in this case, it's using Gemini, but it could be Copilot, it could be OpenAI, ChatGPT, anything you need. And what this can do is provide a summary of a ticket. And based on your prompt, it'll make it how you need it. So we can put in different personas so that if you work in a highly technical industry and the salesperson needs to be able to talk about a ticket, we can simplify it and put it into simpler text if needed, or we can say keep it direct, focus on objectives, break down the ticket any way you want. So without the user flipping between systems or copying and pasting, I'm looking at a ticket, getting a summary from our internal AI tool, and then I can copy that, put it into a message, or I can say I want to add a ticket comment, and I can interact directly with Chris, who owns this ticket, and say, the summary looks like you don't yet have a resolution date. Could you give me an estimate? I have a call with the customer later today, and it will update it directly in that support system. So what we're providing is one screen inside the app that you're already using, allowing you to interact, work with that data, and work across teams easily and efficiently. And this is a full chat that I could continue it on if I wanted to say, can you make that shorter? And it would allow the user here to actually perform more of a dialogue with that system. So this is going to be a real powerful tool for working with those systems that they're not in Dynamics. You're not going to be able to use standard terminology and things like that. This can also help us to simplify this into terms that make sense to users that are in Dynamics and don't need to think about what is a ticket versus a case and an account versus an organization. So let's flip it over. So for those of you that aren't familiar, I've now moved into Zendesk, so into the actual help desk system that's outside of the Dynamics stack. And I'm going to open up a support ticket. So PopDoc widget customization request for Laura, where she wants to be able to tweak the PopDoc dashboard to highlight low inventory items. So this came in. It's been assigned to Chris. And over here on the right, if I put this away, this is PopDoc pulling in what account is linked to this request. So it found that this account is Greenline Manufacturing and provided me a little bit of detail about Greenline. So what I want to look at is how easy it is for you as a non-Zendesk developer, a non-Zendesk expert, to be able to customize any of these widgets in apps that you've never touched before. So here inside PopDoc, what we have are our widgets, and widgets are the iframes, the visualizations in different systems. So I'm going to look at my sidebar for tickets, and right now it has one tab for customer, bringing in the customer with a little user icon, and I could change that icon if I wanted to. So let's look at this actual CRM account. So I can see what environment it's coming from, and it's pulling accounts, which all looks good. Right now, it's just displaying default fields, so I didn't customize what it's showing. So let's tweak this a little bit and make it a little prettier. So let's say I want to put the account name in the header, and I want to put a link to the website, so a link directly to that account. Then we'll say I want to bring in what is the account number, maybe, what else might make sense? Let's pull in the territory code just to add a couple of fields. So now if I go back in real time as I'm making these changes, the app or the widget in that other app is being updated. So now I'm getting what is the account number and the territory code, and then I can click on this because I made it a clickable link to allow me to actually drill down into the system of where it came from. So it's quick and easy for me to customize the look and feel of this app. So let's say it's nice that it shows Dynamics data, but we're a Dynamics house. So we've got other systems like Business Central as our ERP. So I'm going to customize this app to also give me data from Business Central. So what I'm going to do is go back a screen, actually in here. I'm going to add a new tab, and we'll say this is going to give me my Business Central invoices. And I think there's a nice little invoice icon. Then I'm going to go to my invoices tab, and I'm going to create a new widget. So these different types of widgets are different ways that it can display depending on the real estate that you have. The most common one for a list like this, if it's going to be in a sidebar, is a card. So I'm going to add a new cards widget. And I'm going to call this just BC invoices. So the title is what the user will actually see. So I'm just going to name this maybe sales invoices. Coming out of my Business Central demo scenario, pulling sales, posted sales invoices. So it has an action to link order. I'm going to disable that action for now because I don't need it. I'm going to add this to the invoices tab. And let's just add the default fields. And the invoice number, and we'll leave the sorting blank. So now this widget has been added. I can go in here and further customize it. So I could add additional fields, change the sorting, the grouping, anything like that. The only thing I really want to do is tell it how to filter it. Because if I come back here and refresh what's being displayed, I'm going to take a second. I haven't actually filtered this down. So it's just going to return a list of every invoice in Business Central, which could be useful if I knew what invoice I was looking for and I could start to just type in the one that I wanted. But we really would like this to be dynamically filtered based on a field. So if we look over here, I don't really have anything useful to filter on because I haven't built out a full integration, but I could filter on this name. So as long as the company name in this system matches what's in Business Central, I should be able to filter that down. So what I'm going to do is add a parameter, and I'm going to say grab the organization name and add a filter based on the sell to customer name. Go back, refresh, and now rather than bringing in a list of every invoice, I should get just, I believe, one invoice that this customer has. So green, I can see what their Business Central ID is now, green, and they have one invoice. So this is kind of high level. I would like to allow the user to do more with what they see. So I can continue to configure this and improve the experience based on feedback. So I could add additional fields if needed. Again, those would be added in real time. But in this case, I'm going to add in some details. And I'm going to say, add in line items. I actually don't know what the difference is between line items and lines. So I'm going to add both. And then maybe I want to also be able to allow the user to pull down the sales invoice PDF. So now if I refresh again, now the users can say, I want to see lines And it's going to say for this sales invoice, which I can see if I hover over, here are all of my lines, which was 2 line items for Smart Connect and for a pop doc. And then I can go back and say, now print the PDF or show me any payments, which I don't think that this one's paid yet. No. But now the user can start to work with, engage with that data from Business Central without needing to know how to work with Zendesk and without them needing to build out complex queries or work with the Business Central APIs. Because PopDoc can connect to all those systems, we're able to streamline the engagement and allow them to access it easily from here. So I can continue to build this out, add more connectors, add more functionality. So I'm going to go back screen here, and I want to customize this one a little bit more. So right now on the CRM account, it can't do much, but I'm going to add in an action. So an action can allow us to edit that data. So right now there aren't any actions on account. So I'm going to go to the connector for my CRM system. So this one was CRM4. So I found something like account. CRM4. We don't have one defined yet, so let me go back one. I'm going to create a new action, and that action is going to be update account. So I want to empower those support agents to edit data in the CRM system. So I'm going to tell it to run a form, allowing the user to edit an account. So based on the accounts, update account, add. Then I can define what fields they should be able to edit. So the first one's just the hidden, what is the account ID, which will allow us to tie it all together in the back end. But on the actual form, let's allow them to change the account rating. And maybe let's add one more. Bring in the territory code as well. I'm going to leave everything as it is here. Go back to my accounts list and let's add this as an action that's accessible. So I'm going to say update account. Connector action. Update account. So for each of the fields, I just need to define what the default value will be. So account is going to be pulling the account field for the record the user is currently looking at, just to make sure we update the right one. And then I'm also going to set each of these to just default to what their existing value is. So account rating and the territory code. Okay. So what does this look like? So if I select a field and I wanted to update it, it's going to give me a nice little form here in a second. It might not like that my list was already up before I made that change. So it will give me a form, but in my widget group for tickets, I have my CRM account, and I'm just going to tell it to add that new action. So add update account. And in here, I can tell it where to pull each of the fields. So these ones are pulling the account, which is going to come from here. I could also pull something directly off the Zendesk form if I wanted to. So if I wanted to default a name, default something like that, I can. So now if I go back to, I think I did turn that action. Yep, the action's turned on. So now the next time that this loads, get the action to update. So I can say these are drop-down values, so I only see what's available in them in the CRM system. So if I wanted to change them to Africa, or I'm going to just leave them in Europe, click submit, it's going to go and update that account directly from here without me needing to go into the CRM system to make that change. If you didn't want to allow them to use actions, we could just give them the ability to drill down, and at least we're saving them the time of needing to switch between systems, but it's really going to help streamline their access by doing the lookup for them so they don't need to go and manually search for the record. All right. I see that a couple people have been asking some questions, so before we continue, I'm just going to address them. One of them I missed. It happened a few minutes ago, I think about 10 minutes ago. What is the difference between the eOne solution and using something like API? So I think the question is, what's the difference between connecting directly to an API and using the eOne iPass Plus instead? If you connect to an API directly, then you have to work with whatever that system's API is. So you're going to be working with custom code or Power Automate, or maybe an app source app that works directly with that API, and it becomes kind of fragmented. The idea of using the iPass is that you're going to get one standard system that's connecting to all of those different APIs, so that you don't have to think of them as APIs, just think of them as systems that you're connecting to. And we take care of authentication, paging, complexities, data models, and then you can stay focused on the deliverable, the objective of that integration. There's a second question here. Do you have a full list of systems that I've already set up connectivity with? The example is that I showed Salesforce, but how long does it take to go and build your own? So we do have the list on the Smart Connect manual in the documentation section, where you can see what I'll call like our approved and tested list. So these are all of the ones that we've connected to. We've sent them through our QA team. We've cleaned them up, added documentation. Most of them have companion documentation and extra help articles to keep you on track using them. Obviously, every time we put one on here, it is more effort from our team to get them there. So we're not going to do this with every possible system that we connect to. If there is something beyond this, we currently don't have an external facing list of things that we've connected to, but haven't formally created a default connector for you. If you have one of those scenarios, you can reach out to our support team. We have internal resources, they're just not organized, that everyone on our technical team has access to and is contributing to, but at this point, that's not available. So just to give you an idea, I have in my own internal environment of what I've worked with about 50 REST connectors that I've used for proof of concept, working with customer projects and things like that. So the list is obviously much longer than this, but a lot of those connectors is one endpoint with authentication figured out. It's not going to have everything that these pre-built ones have. So it's not going to be as quick and easy to get started with. So from a timing standpoint, if you use one of our standard connectors here, you'll be able to get started with it right away. Different APIs have different complexities, but if you were to download something like ShipStation or an e-commerce template, there's not a whole lot of customization needed because an order is an order, and you can download them and get started very quickly. For other systems, like connecting to, for instance, Jira, there's a lot of custom fields, or in HubSpot, there's a lot of custom fields. And so then there's going to be a little bit more effort needed from you to get started with them. Now, let's say you have a system that's not on this list, not on our list, it's something we haven't heard of before, then it is something that can be built out in Smart Connect itself. So let me find my company. So in here, once you've logged in under REST services, you can start to build out your own custom connector to something. So one that I worked with recently was CloudSuite, which is another e-commerce site. So anyone can build out these. We do have dedicated trainings on how to build out your own connectors to something that we haven't connected with before. But you can see, like, this is just a proof of concept. So we only had to be able to work with an order. We didn't define any destinations. We defined how would paging work, how would their authentication work, which is exchange token, and then what does the exchange token setup look like. So building one of these from scratch and adding, I'll say 5 different endpoints is probably going to take about a day to build it out and test those endpoints and get them working. So it's not a huge lift. It's definitely going to be quicker than vibe coding or building something from scratch, but it is going to fit natively into the solution so that any of these connectors that you use is going to look and feel like our standard Salesforce or Business Central or CRM connector. All right, so we have about 5 minutes left. What I really want to underpin and emphasize in this session is really around you're the experts. So if you join this webinar, you're a Dynamics expert. You know that you have to connect yours or your customer's Dynamics stack with other systems. And because the CRM and ERP are the heart of an organization, then you're in a really good position to help guide them in that choice. So it might be helping them deciding which systems to use, or if they've already chosen the system, it could just be, here's what Dynamics needs to function on that system. Here's what the users in Dynamics are going to need to work well with the teams that are using this other system, and onboarding them quicker. So by being an expert on this, you're going to have more billable hours for your customers by saying, yeah, I can help with that. Maybe I have never worked with HubSpot before. I've never worked with Zendesk or Jira before, but eOne has a connector for it. I'll have to do a little bit of learning. They have a support team that I can lean on, but I'm never going to be alone and on my own on this. I have that support. I have that backup to help me get started and work with this solution that I've never heard of before. So we have a couple minutes left if you have any other questions. Otherwise, if you felt inspired or you have a question about a specific system, my email address was at the beginning. Otherwise, you can reach out to our support team, reach out to your account manager. We're happy to have those discussions about what it is that you need to integrate with Dynamics. Even if it's not on our template list today, we're always looking to grow that list. So if you have suggestions of, I've heard requirements come up for HubSpot or for CloudSuite or whatever it is multiple times, and I'd like to add that to the list, just reach out and let us know. So we're here to help. We're here to work with you on whatever it is that you need.